welcome everybody to Animaladies. At least that's how I pronounce it, Animaladies. I'd like to start off by acknowledging and paying respect to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. It's upon their ancestral lands that the University of Sydney is built, and as we share our own knowledge, teaching, learning and research practices within this university, may we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country. So it's delightful to see you all here today. I have an enormous sense of excitement about what we're going to achieve over the next 2 days, starting soon with Laurie's keynote. But before I invite Laurie to the podium, I want to go through some thank yous, some housekeeping, and also say just a little bit about the conference themes. So firstly, some thank yous. I'd like to thank Charlie, Greg, Frederick and Erin for their help over the next 2 days. You'll have met them at the registration desk. And I'd also like to thank Brian for filming Laurie's lecture this morning. I'd also like to thank Han for funding and assistance, and also the support of ASA, or the Australasian Animal Studies Association. How many people are members? Put your hands up. Awesome. That's lots of members here today, that's great. And I'd also like to thank the School of Philosophical and Historical Inquiry. None of this would have happened without all this help and support for this event. I'd also really like to thank Melissa Boyd, Yvette Watt and Maddie Boyd for putting together an amazing exhibition, the art exhibition, which you'll get to see at 5:30 p.m. today when we leave here and walk over to the gallery space at the close of session. And I'd also like to thank Laurie Gruen, of course, for flying all the way here from the US to talk to us today. And he'd be here for a week, really. So that's fantastic. And I'd also like to thank all the other international guests that are here and all the Australians that are here and who have come to this event from cities from all over. So that's terrific. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. So this conference has been a long time brewing for me. I've been fascinated for a long time by the ways in which some human-animal relationships are pathologised and trivialised and characterised as mad, while other human-animal relations that are often violent and cruel are normalised and rationalised. What we describe as mad still has enormous power to shape moral and ethical perceptions. So I first became interested in the connections between madness, gender and species when I wrote a really embarrassing paper on furries, which, as you know, furries are humans who like to dress up like animals in furry suits, and they sometimes claim to be other species. This has turned out to be one of the most popularly read pieces that I've ever written. And what I was really particularly interested in teasing out in that paper was why it was that the psychologists were so troubled by furries, and why furries were being singled out as mad or as potentially suffering what they wanted to call species identity disorder. Why they were so desperate to label this particular group. Why pathologise them and not other horrendous relations that we see between animals and humans that are seemingly ignored and trivialised on a daily basis? Why target some but not others with this sense of what is mad and what is not mad? So I'm genuinely curious about this and the gendered form that a lot of this takes. And I'm fascinated, like many people, in the phenomenon of the crazy cat lady. It's so nice to be in a space where you can say that in public. So the crazy cat lady, this popular culture figure who is seemingly everywhere at the moment. And it's really delightful that we'll be having some serious discussion of crazy cat ladies here. And I wanted to just flag Jeff Bussolini and Anya Mukherjee at the back, who are going to be talking about crazy cat ladies. They've come all the way from New York. So this is exciting. But by way of setting some of the conference themes in motion, I also wanted to share with you a recent experience that I had in Niagara Falls with another sort of crazy cat lady. So about 3 weeks ago, I was in Canada visiting Niagara Falls, and on one of the tourist notice boards, I read about Annie Edson Taylor, who in 1901 was the first recorded person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel, which for a while seemed to be a really good idea to go over the falls in a barrel. It was a thing. So here is Annie Edson Taylor pictured with the barrel that she travelled in, and as you can see in the picture, she's also touching her cat on top of the barrel there. Now, Annie Edson Taylor went over the falls in a barrel in 1901, and she took her cat with her in the barrel. In fact, she also sent the cat over the falls in the barrel first, as a test. They all survived. Now, what's interesting about this is that there are lots of things that are really interesting about this, but one of the things that's really interesting when you visit Niagara Falls is that the attention given to Annie Edson Taylor in the tourism signs themselves is rather subdued, as if no one's really quite sure how to read this woman's particular feats, and why she put her cat through such a horrendous ordeal in the first place. So while the white men who came after her are described in terms of their injuries and the lengths of stay that they had in hospital, proving their heroism, Taylor is described as a retired schoolteacher and a widow. And so she, unlike all the other men who went down the falls in barrels with or without their pet cats or dogs, actually no, she was the only one who did that. But in distinction from the men who went over the falls, Taylor is described in terms of her marital status as if her lack of a husband and children meant that it was inevitable that she would go over the falls in a barrel with a cat, and had she been married, somebody would have stopped her and rescued the cat, right? So this all leads to this overall question which we're addressing at this conference, which is what counts as mad? What counts as things that are maddening that we have to think through? What happens when gender and species mix in this asylum which is created by living in the margins? So over the next 2 days, we'll be coming up with a whole variety of ways of thinking about this really heady mix of species, gender, and madness. Now, to our keynote. So I'm so delighted to introduce Laurie Gruen to you all. Laurie is an incredible scholar, and she's the author of the highly influential monographs, which I'm sure you're all aware of, Ethics in Animals and Entangled Empathy. She's also editor of The Ethics of Captivity and co-editor of Ecofeminism, Feminist Intersections with Other Animals and the Earth, as well as many, many journal articles and chapters. So Laurie's been working in the field of animal studies and ecofeminism for over 25 years, and she's currently Professor of Philosophy at Wesleyan University, where she also runs the Animal Studies program. She's brought incredible energy and organisational skill to building up the field of animal studies, both through her own fantastic work, but also through the intellectual generosity that she embodies. And I'm absolutely thrilled that she can be with us for this week at this conference, and for the rest of the week at Sydney Uni and also University of Wollongong on Friday. So Laurie will now talk for about 1 hour, and then we're thinking of having a really short 5-minute break, in which time the camera will be shifted away and the microphone's removed, and then we'll come back for question time. So we've got loads of time for questions as well. So over to you, Laurie.